The global trade landscape is undergoing a dramatic transformation, with China at the heart of this seismic shift. A recent analysis reveals that China has strategically redirected a staggering $380 billion in trade away from the United States. This move signals a deliberate effort by Beijing to reduce its reliance on the American market and forge new economic alliances. The implications of this shift are far-reaching, impacting industries, economies, and the balance of power on the world stage. This realignment of trade flows is not a sudden occurrence, but rather the culmination of years of evolving economic policies and geopolitical tensions. The ripple effects are being felt across the globe, with some nations reaping unexpected benefits, while others grapple with the consequences of lost market share and economic uncertainty. As we delve deeper into the specifics of this trade shift, we'll examine its impact on key players like the US and Canada, as well as its broader implications for the future of global trade. China's $380 billion trade pivot is not simply about reducing its dependence on the US. It's a calculated strategy to forge new economic partnerships and solidify its position as a global economic powerhouse. Instead of relying solely on the US market, China is actively cultivating trade relationships with countries in Southeast Asia, Latin America, and beyond. This diversification strategy is evident in China's increased imports from countries like Brazil, Indonesia, and Vietnam. These new partnerships offer China access to essential raw materials, agricultural products, and emerging markets for its manufactured goods. For instance, China has become a major importer of soybeans from Brazil, reducing its reliance on American farmers. Similarly, Southeast Asian nations are becoming important suppliers of electronics components and manufactured goods to China. This shift in trade flows reflects China's long-term vision of building a more resilient and diversified economy. While China strengthens its ties with new trading partners, the US is facing the consequences of this trade diversion. American businesses are experiencing a significant decline in exports to China, leading to lost revenue, job losses, and economic uncertainty. Sectors that were once heavily reliant on the Chinese market are now grappling with the reality of reduced demand and increased competition. American farmers, in particular, have been hit hard by China's reduced reliance on US agricultural products. Soybean exports, once a mainstay of US-China trade, have plummeted, leaving American farmers with surplus crops and dwindling profits. Similarly, the manufacturing sector, already facing challenges from automation and global competition, is experiencing further setbacks as China seeks alternative sources for manufactured goods. The impact of this trade shift is reverberating through the American economy, raising concerns about long-term economic growth and competitiveness. The roots of China's trade shift can be traced back, in part, to the trade policies implemented during the Trump administration. The America First agenda, characterized by tariffs and trade disputes, aimed to reduce the US trade deficit and bring manufacturing jobs back to America. However, these protectionist measures appear to have backfired, accelerating China's efforts to diversify its trade partners and reduce its reliance on the US market. The tariffs imposed on billions of dollars worth of Chinese goods created uncertainty and increased costs for American businesses and consumers. This, in turn, incentivized China to seek alternative markets for its exports and reduce its dependence on American imports. While the intention behind these policies may have been to protect American interests, the unintended consequence has been to push China further away from the US and into the arms of other trading partners. While the US grapples with the fallout of China's trade realignment, other countries are experiencing a windfall. Canada, in particular, has emerged as a major beneficiary of this shift, with its exports to China surging in recent years. As China seeks reliable suppliers of agricultural products, energy resources, and high-tech goods, Canada is well positioned to fill the void. Canadian farmers are seeing increased demand for their wheat, canola, and other agricultural products, while energy producers are benefiting from China's growing appetite for oil and natural gas. Moreover, Canada's burgeoning technology sector is attracting Chinese investment and partnerships, further strengthening economic ties between the two nations. This trade boom is providing a much-needed boost to the Canadian economy and highlighting its growing importance in the global trade landscape. China's $380 billion trade shift is more than just a bilateral trade issue between the US and China. It's a symptom of a much larger transformation underway in the global economy. As China's economic might grows, so too does its influence on global trade rules and institutions. This shift in power dynamics is creating both opportunities and challenges for nations around the world. China is actively promoting its Belt and Road Initiative, a massive infrastructure project aimed at connecting Asia, Europe and Africa through a network of roads, railways and ports. This ambitious project has the potential to reshape global trade routes and give China significant leverage over global supply chains. As China continues to expand its economic footprint and assert its influence on the world stage, the existing global trade order is being challenged and reshaped. The ongoing trade realignment involving China, the US, and other nations highlights the fluid nature of the global economy. As economic power shifts and trade relationships evolve, there will inevitably be winners and losers. While China's strategic moves position it for continued economic growth and influence, the US faces the challenge of adapting to this new reality and finding ways to remain competitive in a rapidly changing global market. For countries like Canada, this trade shift presents a golden opportunity to strengthen their economic ties with China and capitalize on the growing demand for their goods and services. The long-term implications of this trade realignment are still unfolding, but one thing is certain. The global trade landscape is being redrawn, and nations that can adapt and innovate will be best positioned to thrive in this new era of global commerce.